Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You're an adult. Give an hour. My guest is Malik. Is that right?
Yep.
Malik, and we're gonna talk about how to stay healthy. Cause you know what this with this COVID thing going on, some of us have neglected our health because we've had so many things to focus on, like loss of jobs, like being isolated all the time and things like that. So we're gonna talk about how to stay healthy. How has this COVID affected you, Malik? This thing.
Well, it's going on, what is it, 3 years now? It's been one of those troubling times where we're so used to being outside with people that we're able to socialize with and those we're able to like love, like family and friends. But being kind of distant from that reality is keeping a lot of us kind of mentally contained inside of our homes, inside of our brains as well, our minds. So I try my best to distract myself with stuff like writing or reading, keeping up with the everyday news. But other than that, my mental pretty much stays at a balanced level. I try my best to maintain a positive mindset throughout all of this because this is something that we have to live with, we're dealing with. So I have to be able to adapt to the situation, just to make sure I'm healthy, my family's healthy, and everything like that.
Yes. And like you said, sometimes when we're not around people, we sometimes can emotions can come up that we haven't dealt with.
Correct.
Um, what emotions have you felt have came up with you during this time?
I deal with a sense of separation anxiety. So being close to those that I do love is has become an issue for me throughout this process. I've dealt with a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety issues, but again, being in the house, dealing with yourself for an extended amount of time, especially more than what you're used to. Again, being able to be social with friends and family, it kind of creates an issue or a matter of do I have anybody else? Do I have access to my friends? Like I did 2 years ago, and it just being able to kind of adapt again, like I said, was probably the hardest thing, which is why I kind of fell into a state of depression as well throughout the process.
It's almost like we've not looked in the mirror for a long time, and and when we do, we see the changes that have occurred in our lives. We ask ourselves how we ask ourselves how we ask ourselves what's going on with us. We say we're not the same person we were.
Right.
Yeah, it's almost like us dealing with our real selves because when we're working and going to sports events and things like that, we had those distractions in our lives, so we didn't have to take that close look at ourselves.
True. It's usually harder to kind of be able to find that. What would I say? Being able to like realize the personal issues that you're dealing with eternally, to acknowledge even the fact that there is an issue with you, whether mental or physical health is to be concerned. So we kind of find it or make it difficult for ourselves the more that we try to deny the, issues at hand. We tend to neglect ourselves because of it. And I feel like in that case, especially going through COVID right now, we have to be able to, you know, before COVID, we didn't have those resources. We still don't have those resources fully, but right now we're in a state of mind. We're in the house all the time. The internet is the strongest power we have right now. We have that chance to kind of figure out the resources that we need to get the help again, whether it's physical or mental health. It just takes that, like I tell everyone, it takes that first step. You have to be willing to want to do it so anything else in your life can be improved or at least start to become improved.
It's like if you have some dirt and you push the dirt and you push the and you push it on push dirt put it on the rug. The more dirt on the rug, the more that rug will go up.
Hmm.
Like you said, we have to confront issues in our lives,
Correct.
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep. And
We
it's
have
also.
to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Go
You
ahead.
go ahead.
Um, with your comparison to the rug and the dirt, it kind of, I get what you were saying. It builds up after a while. It continues to pile up until it becomes unbearable, untamable. So, before it gets to that point, I'm not perfect. I'm 30 years old. I've had those swept too much under the rug type situations where at the time I had to pretty much expose it. It was too much for me to handle. So after a while, that's when I started to kind of fall into like therapy or writing, or sometimes even music helps. But a lot for me is going to the therapy because I got tired of just sweeping all of my past traumas and all of that under the rug as if I could just ignore it. And I can't. We can't. We can ignore it for a little bit, but at the same time, it's gonna build, and you only create more issues the more you ignore the stuff that you are dealing with.
Because I can say our race, the black race, we used to see therapy as something strange.
Correct.
We used to see it as something that others did.
Right.
When I was growing up, we had issues. They would say pray about it. They used to go and talk to the pastor. That they would say do something else to take your mind off of it. But that doesn't work all the time.
Right.
Because sometimes the issue is so deep, because sometimes the issue is so deep within us until those other ways don't work to get it out.
True. Um, the whole stigma behind the not wanting to go to therapy, or it's the whole hesitation thing behind it, where, oh, that person doesn't know me, how could they relate to whatever I have to come and say? We're not expecting a therapist, 100% to relate, but they're there to create, situations that can help you kind of deal with the traumas, and not fully relate. Some may, a lot of therapists have been through certain things, but in our case, as the Black community is concerned, we kind of lack the resources, the therapists, psychiatrists, and things like that, um, to be able to adapt to those in our community that need that type of assistance or help. And then on top of that, with the lack of, or those in our community that are on like health insurance and things like that, therapy isn't cheap. We tend to live in a world where therapy is priced higher than anything like a luxury. It comes into play. So when we have health insurance that skyrockets that an average Black family can't afford, then we're missing out on those resources. Again, when it comes to therapy, it's just one of those foot in the door type situations where we have to be able to compare, like, even just me talking to somebody might make me feel better, or trying to just vent so I can cry, so I can use my emotions. It's generally just what it's used for when you don't have anyone. So in the Black community, our only issue is we don't have that brother or sister that could talk to this young man or this young lady that could relate to the environment, the financial struggles, and things like that.
Yeah, and we've been taught to keep our I'll say we say keep our dirty laundry and not to ourselves.
Right.
Because I hear a lot of people still say that keep your dirty laundry to yourself. Don't air it out.
Right.
If you don't air it out, it's gonna stink up your house.
Exactly.
It's gonna stink up your house. We're not talking about the house that you live in. We're talking about this house right here.
Foundation of your body, your temple. Yes, sir.
This house, our house, our bodies.
Right.
Because if we don't air things out, it just get worse. Because I was volcano. I take your stuff. I take Jim's stuff. I take Jane stuff, and then they want to say, and then a person that made me upset, they got Jim, Jane, John, they got everybody's stuff from me
Right.
until I learned that I had to let it out. I had to release it.
Fair. I think another thing that we kind of get misconstrued is, we have a lot of, friends and family in our life that are sometimes willing to listen. Whether
It's an authentic care whether they really want to acknowledge the issues that you're going through. But we tend to, dish out those what we would say dirty laundry secrets to the wrong people, while we're putting faith into our friends and family, which again, depending on the situation, 50-50, a person is either going to care or they're not. And why waste that energy or that time trying to convince a person who's not really ready to kind of understand the feeling and really kind of get into the moment of why you're feeling the way you are. But then they're skeptical of going to therapy to talk to someone that's trained and a professional for these type of specific situations. And I've always found out that in certain cases going to a friend or a family is not the best idea. And then that's where, when we feel like all we do have is that friend and or that family member, that pile of laundry, because we don't want to talk to that type of person or those people, like you said, it builds, it continues to kind of pile up after a while. But then while we're still ignoring the fact that there is like a therapist out there that could help, or a psychiatrist that could help, we're skeptical and questioning, not knowing that person, but trying to maintain a healthy relationship with someone in your friend or your friend group or your family that of course they're not going to hear you out. They don't want to hear you out. They don't have nothing to do with your issue. They can't relate to it, so they're going to just push it out or ignore it. So I feel like going to therapy is the best thing, especially learning after a while that holding your baggage, or in my situation, your stress, your past traumas, and for a long time, that it's not healthy. It creates your mental, lack thereof, that health kind of depletes your physical health. You begin to become depressed. You don't want to bathe. You don't want to shower. You don't want to brush your teeth most days. But it's kind of that towering situation where we kind of have to break that mold, because yeah, friends and family are great, but therapy to work for a clearer and better mind is, to me, the best solution that we have right now.
Yes, and we have this stigma that going to a psychiatrist or psychologist means you're crazy. We have that stigma still going on today,
Yep,
and that's the wrong attitude because
exactly.
they're their supporters in our times when we feel lost.
Right.
We will have a tour guide when we go to another country. We will go to our pastor when we got problems. What that psychologist does same thing what that psychiatrist does same thing as our pastor or tour guide. They guide us through our problems or issues that we have in our lives.
Exactly.
So it's time
Exactly.
for so it's time for us to stop having that mindset that if you go to a psychologist, you're crazy. That just means you need help.
Exactly. It's the absence of understanding, not wanting to educate ourselves when it's obviously necessary to do so. You find a lot of signs in it when you see domestic abuse situations with black couples, or even like murders. The crime rates, and it's something inside, something eternal internal, that has to be kind of fixed before we're able to kind of move outside of the environment that we were raised on. Black men can't cry, or head of household, don't show emotions, and mom is set in this lifestyle, this is how the mother of the house is supposed to be. So we're set where the stigma has placed us, exactly in this rotation of life. But what are we going to do to break it? how do we proceed to, break barriers that people have kept around our ankles and our necks for the past, 100 or so years, where again we have to be able to either, dominate it again, recreate the will to improve something for the black community, whatever may work, but we have to be able to take that first step. A clear mind is best. I would again say therapy would be my go-to to, tend to make this process work. There's a lot of other people out here that are trying to figure out ways to do it, um, how we could clear our minds better, become the woke Black American. And again, before any of that, we have other small issues to even break that barrier where we're giving our dollars to pointless, bigger industry businesses here, but we're not even providing those dollars for our own community. So it's a lot within one topic that I can go in just to say that mental health is definitely key for the understanding and to be able to like exist peacefully, to be honest with you.
Yes, and a lot of us are chasing that dollar. A lot of us are chasing that big house, that big car. When peace of mind is not in that equation.
Correct. Correct.
Because chasing that big house and big car, we may have to work 2 and 3 jobs. We may have to sacrifice our integrity to actually move up, to actually get up, to actually move, to actually get that promotion.
Correct.
And I want to say, and that mess with our inner peace.
Correct. That takes a lot of brain power as well, especially when you're dealing with the household, especially when you have kids, dealing with the um, troubles at work, because we all know like if life isn't easy, you deal with whatever you would have to deal with. But when it comes to like being able to have this balance, the mind power and the will to be able to achieve this type of like success for yourself, again, whether it's physical, mental success, or whatever it may be for yourself, you have to be at peace with yourself. You're not gonna overcrowd your mind with things that you feel like you want, a house, a car, but you're so depressed most days you can't even get out to bed to go to work, to work towards this car, to work towards this house, or whatever it is that you may want. You have to be able to break that barrier for yourself. And again, like I'll say, it's always going to lead back to anything therapy for me. So even if it's not therapy, you have to find some way to kind of break that mold you've been in for so long, because repeating it isn't getting you anywhere. So while you're so skeptical about, oh, therapy might be this, therapy might be that, how about you shut up and try it and see what it does for you? If you don't like it, then you try something else. But you're not even willing to take the first step. You're just complaining about it from outside of the window looking in. Am I
Yeah,
getting
we
that?
have to. Yeah, we have to find that place that brings us peace.
Correct.
If it's walking in the park, if it's just if it's just watching watching a funny movie, you gotta find that place of peace
Correct.
because peace is valuable. Peace can decrease stress. That's why some have ulcers. That's why some get sick all the time. All because of the stress that's on us. And
Exactly.
if we reach that point of peace, we will be able to live our lives healthy and wealthy.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah, so sometimes those things that we want to attain, we should ask ourselves, would they bring us peace? Would they bring us joy? Would they bring us comfort?
Right.
And sometimes to attain peace, we have to go outside our comfort zone.
Exactly.
We have to try something that we never tried before.
Facts. Facts. I think we're programmed in a certain way, and I can't necessarily say it's our faults. It's just how the world operates when it comes to the black community. So when we're kind of created to be in this one section of our life, and when it was implemented, it was to be for the rest of our life. We weren't able to get our riches and the 40 acres and the mule. So that's where that mindset was. It was stamped into the idea of the black community. So when we're ready to kind of, we see like the 10% of the black, population that has those 40 acres and the successes, that's when we start to question ourselves and why can't I do that? Or why can't I be there? Or how come I can't have that? Or why can't I do this? And then you have to think about yourself and look, in the position that you're in yourself. You're wallowing most days in the fact that you're depressed. And again, I'm so for it. Don't make it seem as if depression is wrong or anything like that. But while you're wondering why you're still in that one position, you have to somehow again be able to create that roadmap or your learning board or whatever it may be to kind of get you at least moving. So when you said you have to get uncomfortable, that made me think about I was in prison 3 years ago, maybe four, and my my therapist would always say you have to get uncomfortable to be able to experience. So when I figured that, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, he kept saying it and it kept kind of hitting me. I would think about it while I'm going to sleep or at lunch, and I'm like, dude, what does that mean? So I got out, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm still thinking about it. So I gotta really like see, because I spent 10 years of my life being so angry at the world for my past traumas, and my anger always got me back in jail or something like that. So when I figured it out, like, I was sitting by myself, I was randomly just doing whatever my schedule had for the day, and it had hit me, and I'm like, dude, I just gotta back off a little bit. You're so used to reacting with your anger. You're so used to being in this state of mind, and it's not getting you anywhere. You're usually damaging property, or you're in the jail system or a prison system, or you're just in handcuffs too frequently lately. So I got to that point where I was like, I'm gonna stop overreacting when it's not necessary. I'm gonna stop you know causing hell. I'm not gonna put fear into people. And I kind of caught myself, and when I kind of told myself that, I was like, okay, this feels kind of good. I haven't been in prison in 4 years, or since that situation has happened. I haven't had an outburst. So, like, when you're telling yourself that, and you have people in your corner that say, get uncomfortable. Stop sitting in that same couch or position you've been sitting in, your entire life. Lean back a little bit. See, when you lean back, what that can create for you and your opportunities, instead of I'm gonna just lounge here and see, if I can stand here for the rest of my life, am I gonna get that $10 million? Am I gonna get that house that I want? And no, you have to get uncomfortable. And in most cases, when it comes to talking about mental health, the skepticism behind it, that's you getting uncomfortable. The idea of, I might want to see what this is like. I want to go to therapy, even if it's just for 30 minutes, to see if I can kind of, if not relate to the person that's talking to me, I can just get my rocks off. I'm gonna be able to, use my therapist as a vice or a journal, and I'm going to be able to express my emotions. And that was me getting uncomfortable, because now I enjoy going to therapy. My therapist texts me when we were not having therapy sessions. We communicate, we're close friends and stuff like that. So me going in, I was one of those skeptical black kids, black males, definitely. So I went in it questioning it, and now it's beautiful. I'm a happier person, most definitely.
Like before I got married, okay, me and my wife, we went through marriage counseling.
Right.
And want to say, and by us doing that, that made us look at things that we would not look at.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm high strung and she's laid back. So that one thing, and couples, they continue, and the couple that's successful usually go through therapy um every couple of years, you know,
Right.
because the dynamics change in our lives. constantly,
Right.
and sometimes we can get lost. We can lose our way. But that person who's there, that therapist, that psychologist, or will go to, they may be able to lead us on the right track
Correct.
when we have jumped off the track.
Exactly. That's the best part I think about it, even when you're just diving into something, especially when it doesn't have to be an especially like things like basketball. We don't grow up, we don't come out the womb saying I want to play basketball. It's a small interest somewhere, something that's piqued your interest. Same with swimming, same with sports, same with gambling or anything else that we may have a small interest in. So when you go into therapy and you don't know what to expect for it, again, it's a 50-50. A therapist can teach you a lot of things that you didn't know about yourself. And it's one of the best feelings that you'll ever experience because the more that you're intent to listening to this therapist, they become like a close friend, the friend that you felt like you've never had because they're reading you without only knowing you for about 30 minutes to an hour during the day. And that's every week or once a month. So I have a white female therapist. I don't have a problem with her. I've never shunned her because she's Caucasian and she's trying to help a black man from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, raised in the hood, Kenosha, foster care, and things like that. She's the best therapist I have ever had, and I'm 30 years old. This woman, we giggle, we laugh, we talk about each other's families. We literally like it's the best relationship that I've ever been able to create, and she's 100% in my corner. No judgments, um, based off of my experiences, based off of the things that I've told her. Um, she doesn't question what I say. She tells me when I'm wrong, and I can clearly accept it. So we have to be in that position again, like you said. We get uncomfortable, try it out. We tend to try out things that are more, riskier for our lives and our well-beings, but we're hesitant to go sit on a couch or a chair for 25 to 30 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how you're feeling. So it's people's mindsets at the time. Again, we can feel like we have to go take this trip to Miami, spend about $1,000, but we don't want to take that time to go get our mental health checked. So again, at the end of the day, it's just pretty much how the person in the person's mind is thinking, how they want for themselves. So if we continue to avoid it, if people continue to avoid it, and I mean people as in us, the black community, then we won't be allowed to move forward. We're not able to progress because all we want to do is worry about what really isn't a worry for really anybody. Again, it's a bargain, as I would say. You go to therapy, you either like it or you don't. That's it. No one is forcing you to continue to go if you don't like it. But if you do like it, guess what? You got uncomfortable. You feel like now you have a vice to reach out to every time you're in a depressed state. And that's what they're there for. They are there for that extra link that you don't have at home, especially with those black families that don't even know how to communicate with their own kids. You create that friction. And then when you're not able to create that friction, or I'm sorry, when you're able to communicate more with your therapist and not those family members, that then creates the friction, like why can't you come to me and talk to me about these issues and blah blah blah. So choosing to get uncomfortable for about 20 to 35 minutes out of a week or a month will not kill you. It won't. You tend to put worse things in your body and other ideas in your mind that are more toxic than just going to sit down with this stranger that's trained for about 4 to 8 years. Your pastor is not trained for this. He's trained to speak to you through God. Your neighbor is not trained for this. This person is going to school for 4 to 8 years to be trained in psychology, the study of the mind and everything that's related to. But you're skeptical about someone that has this profession. But you would go to your best friend who ain't even listening to you. Your best friend is more concerned about her ex-boyfriend and this other stuff that's going on in her life. But you rather neglect the person that's willing to sit and listen to you. It doesn't make sense to me.
And I would say today's society is pushing us in the wrong direction because when you look at the news, when you look at technology, they're pushing the newest computer, the newest iPhone, they're pushing the they're pushing those car owners. They're saying get all you can. Even the food. Back when I say back when I was a little kid, a chicken a chicken grew at at I would say it didn't grow as fast as it grows nowadays. You know, this society that we live in is mind is driven is driven is driven by the money.
Right. Exactly.
So it's time for us to move to a more holistic point of view. Um, I would say if I'm a single man, I don't need a 15 room house. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I'm one person, I don't need about 5 or 6 cars. But this society tells us to get all we can.
Right. I don't. I mean, everybody has their place in the society. I guess I could say, and it's more where it's stamped at. Again, going back to where I said it was stamped at. It kind of society isn't a place built for us, especially related to the financial side of things, ownership, creating the generational wealths and things like that. Again, it's all pertaining to a certain population that has those resources that they lack. Um, and also creating the whole single male, single household identity, and it's one of those things that we're again sewn into. But I can't really get into too much of that without kind of digging into my book. I don't want to, kind of give too much without it. But
Okay, okay, cool. Well, that's just that's just because I have chased that um that that um that money God and and because I was not willing to actually give myself to the process, I'm happy. I'm filled with joy. I don't have a mansion. I don't eat steak every night, but I have joy, peace, and wisdom, understanding my life,
that's good.
and that's what I feel is important for us to take care of our bodies instead of trying to go out and get all this outside stuff.
Correct.
Because when we die, we can't take it with us.
Nope.
When we die, our bodies go back to the dust, and we can't take that gold watch on our hand, on our arm. We can't take it with us.
Facts. Facts. I mean, that's why we do the work while we're alive to leave the generations after us their likings and what they've used, the resources that they've gained from us and generations before us. Kind of opens that gate to a more prosperous life. And again, that's where again everything that I advocate for will always lead to the mental health aspect of things, but it kind of creates a sense of peace, knowing that you're gonna die and your kids are gonna be okay. Knowing that you're gonna pass and everything that pretty much fought for while you were here is now under your kids' belt, that they can be safe, be humble, and again, like you would say, be at peace. The best thing that you would want out of life is to be at peace. It's not to have that car, something that we would like, something we don't really need, that car. But as long as we're at peace, peace brings out so much more. We're able to prosper because our energies is, we're reflecting with the earth. So when we're, one with the earth, there's not much, to keep you from anything that you can get to. You keep, being positive, the manifestations and the affirmations, and it all creates that positivity once around you, where you're not thinking, okay, $2,000, I need that, it's what I need to be, successful in my life, versus let me work on myself, manifest, create this life that I want for myself and my family and stuff like that. And then we go out there and create the work for ourselves to, be able to collect that check, to be able to collect that car. You can't do things like this. You can't work. You're not gonna clock in and your mind's not right. You're not gonna think you're gonna get through this 20-page paper for school and you're stressing about 20 other different things that don't relate to topic in front of you. So peace of mind therapy, um, eating right, eating healthy, all of that pertains and comes straight back to the mental health. Your body is your mental. It's your structure, it's your foundation. You feed your mind by educating it. If you're not educating yourself, your mind is just gonna shut down. It's not gonna have its purpose if you're not creating that fuel for it, if you're not providing the fuel that your brain needs. So, when you say physical health, your brain is your physical. It's also within your cranium, it's in your head. So you gotta make sure your temple is great so your mind is even better for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, our mental health it affects our physical health, our emotional health. It affects everything.
Right.
It affects everything because when we're not right mentally, our physical body it can do some strange things.
It depletes. It's like the wheel, what do they call those little things, the turbines that help, that flow with the water. If the turbine isn't being pushed by water, there's no electricity. When you say feed your mind, create the environments you need, you're feeding yourself that type of energy that's needed for your mind to function at 100%. And I don't mean, they say a person thinks at a certain percentage of the brain, but you're using that 15% till it's 100% capacity. So when you're able to do stuff like that, again, you're creating that manifestation and things like that. You want to be able to say, "Oh, I don't eat bad foods that take from my body." There are a lot of stuff that we eat and intake that hurts our mind. Energy drinks bad for us. Bad foods that have all this poison in it bad for us, and it makes us sick. When our body is sick, we can't function. When we can't function, on that we have bills at home, kids to take care of, a school project due anytime here, or anything else that you have going on, that's all affecting your mental. And that's all being taken away because you're not giving yourself the nutrients and things that your mind, body, and your soul needs.
Yes, and I went through a state of depression too, cause I had strokes cause I had strokes when I was young age, and I was 11 through 13. All my friends left me, and I was just out of I tried to kill myself. I was dealing with a lot of stuff in my in my mental, physical body.
Right,
But but it took me 18 years to figure out that it didn't matter what nobody else. It didn't matter what they said about me. What
right,
mattered is what I thought about myself.
exactly.
What mattered is what I believe about myself. It took me 18 years to realize that. Like I was trying to be the athlete in school, but I couldn't be it. I was trying to be smart when in school, but I never reached that pinnacle. So I was down. I called myself stupid, dumb, and things like that. But like I said, like I said, when I turned 18, I realized that Travis, be the best you that you can be.
Exactly.
That's what it comes down to us being the best us that we can be. Don't worry about what the other person doing. You do what you can do.
Exactly. They're just that other person is just there. You know, we're giving challenges because nothing is easy. So we tend to have those roadblocks or those stones that are, willing to try to kind of distract us for what the path is. So we have those friends or those people that we feel like, again, that are in our corner, but at the same time they have this feeling of, oh no, you can't do that, or pretty much the same things you're saying to yourself intentionally, that you're not going to be able to do this, or okay, well, why, I'm so not worried about you right now. I have, a means to be able to kind of move around this rock, move around this challenge, and find my own route without having to care about what anyone else says. I'm not here for the approval of anyone else. After I, strive for so long to get out of that myself, because I've dealt with that, a lot of my life being 30 years old, that I found that the more that I've listened to people, those are the same people that have kept me anchored for my entire life. So then when you're willing to let that anchor go, and your ship is moving peacefully, nice waiting on the water, you don't question anything. As long as your boat hasn't sunk, what are you questioning? You left a few people in their raft behind you, but then you're continuing to proceed forward. You don't look back. You don't let no one question your journey, because only you know your journey. They don't know the stops on your way there. They can only question what they see from the outside of your boat. But by the way, they're still behind you in that little raft that you left them on, still in that same spot. So,
Yeah, it's kind of like before they let a hot air balloon off the ground, they got sandbags holding it so that you can get in and, and take the ride. But they
exactly.
have to cut those sandbags off for you to fly. Some people are there to just help us get to help us get in the basket. But but sometimes we gotta cut the sandbags or those people off from our lives to fly.
Yep. Just sandbags. Just extra weight that's not necessary. A bird can't fly with a bear on his back. So when we question, like, oh, is this friend good for me? Is this relationship great for me? You let yourself decide. You let the way your map is written out for you, created for yourself, and let you decide on that. Sometimes, we have a toxic person in a disguise as a good person in our lives, and then we also have that, and vice versa. Someone that doesn't have the good intent, but at the same time wants to do good, but doesn't know how to give that type of energy, because the experiences or the environment they're in hasn't allowed them to kind of take that in. So you kind of have to be cautious when you kind of create that type of situation. So when we have the toxic friend who's covered in a mask that's, you know, full of ill intents, bad intentions, and stuff like that, those are the bags we are willing to let go. But if you have a stronger person who sometimes, yeah, they might hear you, sometimes you or that person might not know how to respond to a certain, situation. We allow that person in by learning, teaching, just how you did when you were that same depressed person. Oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what to tell you right now. That type of response. And we get that, we have a friend sometimes that may be dealing with the exact same thing you're dealing with. So while the sandbags are good, a lot of those sandbags around the hot air balloon, yes, they're there to kind of keep the basket down until we're ready to take off, but they keep a few on when they're up in the air to kind of maintain the level of how high I can go. So when we're keeping those two or three bags on that basket, for me, it's okay to bring certain people. That certain amount of people or that certain amount of bags are gonna keep me leveled. So in my mind, I'm at peace. I got rid of the bags that I knew for a fact were full of BS. Things that weren't good for my physical temple, my body, and then those things that weren't good for my mental as well. So I'm gonna take off like 5 or 6 sandbags. I'm gonna keep 2 or 3, because maybe those 2 or 3, just like me, come from the dirt and just need the right walking or the right guided hand to get to that understanding where my mentality, my mental health comes before anything else in my life.
Yes, that's so true. Because some people come out of life for seasons,
Hmm.
and when that season is up, sometimes we want to hang on to that person. Sometimes we
Okay.
want, sometimes we don't want to let that person go because we become attached to that person.
Right.
When when if we let them go, we can fly higher.
Exactly.
Yeah, because in my lifetime, there have been people there who've been to support me, and then when I was about to go higher, they would say, "You can't do that." I say, "You would just tell me I could do something, not tell me I can't do something because it's outside of my wheelhouse." That you think,
No, that's those situations, those type of friends, those are the ones that they want to be there with you when it's said and done. They want to doubt you. Um, but once you get to that peak, once your hot air balloon gets to that point where they know at this point you've reached a level of success, but then of course you see it, but then you want a little more. You just want an inch more. But then when you want more, for them it's like, dude, I haven't done nothing yet, but he's here so far, and I'm only here with the spectrum. I haven't moved. I haven't even started, starting my LLC. I haven't done this yet to graduate. I haven't done this, but you're here, so now you wanna break another mold. You're on a whole nother atmosphere now, beyond, way beyond that one friend that's hating on you. Then we're only creating a social issue between us two. You're hating. You don't want to be around me for the positivity. You don't want to structure my success with me because I brought you to this point, and now you're doubting me. Can't deal with that. Those type of friends are definitely toxic. Those type of relationships are definitely toxic because there are people who don't have an interest to be successful or anything like that, but they're a very supportive friend, a very supportive family member. They're there with you from step one, A through Z. And those are those type of people that don't have, they're in school, they're to an extent a success to their wants. But with you, you want more. So a friend that's there from A to Z, those are the type of friends that I would keep because those are the most supportive. And I say that because it's rare to have a good friend. It's rare to have, those who say, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my family member, you're my blood. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to, are you there for me through this? Did you support this? Because you can say it, you can ride with me on this hot air balloon, but to what point? When do you want to get off this ride? Because right now I'm planning on taking it to the moon, but you're here doubting me. I feel like you're not what I need right now because you're slowing me down. So then we let one bag go. We have two. Okay. We started off with three. Let's just say the other two could be your children and your wife. At that point, those two, you don't have to doubt anything. You don't have to question. Now it's just, babe, or, talk to a son or a daughter. This is where I want to thrive and strive continuously so our family could have this wealth, this success that we need for our brand name when we're gone. So now all you have is that household of yours, which is, for myself, it is my kids and my wife. So I don't have anything else behind me. I don't do these books for the benefits of my adoptive family or my foster care family. I do it for the benefit of my kid that's on the way, and then the daughters and kids that I do have now, and my wife. So that's my hot air. for my balloon. That's literally the cause of me being able to step on these different pedestals, going in with the mindset like, I have an idea for this, the black community where I can get people into therapy, or, I can start this nonprofit organization to get kids and blah blah blah. So that's where I am. Each pedestal gives me an idea for the next door to open. So I can't stop thinking, because when I hear, oh, you can't do that, guess what? I'm gonna go up 2 flights now. I have two more ideas because you said I couldn't do this one. So when I execute this one, I want you to meet me here 2 levels up, and then you let me know how my progress is doing because you're doubting me.
Yes, and you know what? People can be jealous of our peace. They can be jealous of our tranquility. They can have all the money in the world and be rich and be unhappy. And they can
Facts.
see us happy and feel at peace, and they'll try to disturb it.
Yep.
They will try to put a monkey wrench in our joy.
Right. And these are the same people that don't want to go to therapy or try to find out what the issues are. These are those same people that don't know how to adjust. They don't know how to get out of that comfort zone that they've been in for so long. But that, again, they seen you break that habit, that bad habit that we all have. Men especially, we all have that habit of just being content where we are and not being able to deal with the stresses of life or family or kids or working or school. But then that same person that's sitting here telling you that you can't do is that same person who was sitting with you about 6 months ago, but then because you felt the need that you had to change yourself, you got uncomfortable. They sat there, and now they're seeing you climbing while they're still there. So what do we do to those type of people? We leave them where they are. So all they could do is, deal with, oh, he's at peace, he's happy, he has a great family, he's doing this for himself, he looks healthy, his skin looks beautiful, vibrant. It's because I worked for it, manifested it, praise to God for it, and I maintained who I was solely for the purpose of gaining respect, the health for my own mental state and well being, and just wanting more for what I've come from. And that's all it is. That's hate. You get that. You can get it from someone you don't know. You can get it from anybody. So every time someone says you can't do it, do you stop and shut down and don't do it? Or do you continue to thrive and continue to show them that you can do it just for them to move on, leave you alone? You can't be at peace dealing with those who are not at peace. It creates a not at peace environment for you. That energy. You feel their energy, they feel yours sometimes. But majority of the worst part of it is when it's a negative energy trying to, infiltrate yours, it's bad. So you keep away from those type of people.
Before this, I was watching the American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story.
Okay.
Kurt Warner, um, he got an NFL after 14 years of college. He tried out for the Bears and they cut him. He was working at he working in a store as a stock person
Okay.
when he got in the Arena League, and then the NFL saw him. But 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 what I took from that story is that he didn't give up. He kept on trying. And he played 14 seasons in the NFL.
I don't
I
think I ever
tell
heard
you,
it.
I tell you something. That's the story of overcoming there. That's the overcoming there. He was still practicing his throws and things and footwork while working at the store
Okay.
because he had a dream to play NFL. But he didn't let nobody stop him from achieving that dream.
That's good. That's good.
And we have to have that same attitude too. If God has put a dream in us, it's going to come to pass. It may take 10 years, it may take 5 years, it may take 1 year. It's going to come to pass.
Exactly.
It's going to come to pass.
Yep.
It's going to come to pass.
We just have to be willing to
So,
put.
so that's why it's called the don't give up hour, because my message to everybody is to don't give up on your dreams, hopes, and visions. Keep striving, keep pushing. I don't care what comes in your way. Knock it
Exactly.
down. Knock it down. Knock it
Exactly.
down.
Mm-hmm.
Knock it down. Knock it down. Press forward. Press
Exactly.
forward. Press forward. Because he got because he was told 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 he was too old. They had guys from college trying out for the Rams. And then the main and what I'm saying and then the first string quarterback got hurt. And they put him in the game. And he played.
That's good.
So
That's good.
sometimes things come our way. The question is, are we prepared for it?
Exactly. Mentally and
Ha-
physically.
have we put in the work for that goal?
Exactly.
It's not enough just to want that goal. It's not enough just to pray.
Yep.
We have to put in the work.
Yep.
And sometimes that work is going to therapy.
Exactly.
Sometimes that work is going. Sometimes that work is doing things that makes us uncomfortable. Sometimes that work is. So I say to you and me and everybody else, we can make it.
I
We can
agree.
make it. We can make it.
Thank you.
Come hell or high water, we can make it.
Yes.
Typhoon, hurricane, we can make it.
Yes, sir.
We can make it. That's
Yep.
why I say that. That's why I say to us.
I agree.
I'm not saying strive for a goal that's unattainable, but but if it's a goal that we can reach, and we know it, don't give up. Keep striving.
Exactly.
Keep pushing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate those words. Definitely needed though, for sure.
Let me tell you something. When I had my strokes, the doctor came off and said the doc came over and said he no walk. One walking a day. They actually tested my brain in the sixth grade and they said I was not intelligent. But you see I'm walking a day. You see I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm not stupid.
Right.
I believed that for 18 years. I believe what they said to me for 18 years. I believe that.
Amen.
But when I woke up and realized that I had a power inside of me that was more powerful than any power plant in the world, I pushed forward, and here I am talking today.
Good. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, man. So, any last words to our audience?
I actually had a great time talking to you guys. If you guys want to check out my book, it's called Course 28. It continues. It is also a part two of my very first book that I dropped in 2020. It's called Course 28, a memoir on mental health. It is a telltale all about my life. mental health illnesses that I've lived with. It gets deep, but that part two drops February 28th. You can find the book right now on pre-sale at Yes He Writes, YesHewrites.com. And you can also find me on any Twitter or social media network at Yes He Writes.
Is this it? Yes, he right. So I'm gonna put it up there.
Yep.
Okay, that's right. Okay, I
Yep.
will make sure it's right. So
That's
y'all can get the
perfect.
book. Okay, yes, he writes.
Yep. .com.
Yeah. So man, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
I appreciate you for having me,
You
brother.
you have you have been a great guest, and I wish you success in
Thank you.
all that you do. I wish you
Thank you.
Godspeed in everything you do, man. And okay, so that's the broadcast for today. Have a great day, and don't give up on your dreams, hopes, and visions. Keep striving, keep pushing,